Good afternoon and welcome everyone to CSL Ocala. I am Reverend Cindy Grimes and I am so glad that you are spending a little time with us this afternoon, whether you're watching live or if you join us at a later date and time. So if this is your first time being with us today, I want to share a little bit of information with you about who we are. And that is our welcome. It's really important to know what I think it is anyway, what an organization values and what is important to them. So it gives you a glimpse into what we are about. And at Center for Spiritual Living Ocala, these are our values: spiritual growth and practice at the top of our list. And that is the reason that we exist and why we come together, is to learn and to grow. And so that's why we're here in Ocala. And we value love. Love is always right there at the top of the list. It's so important for us. Appreciation as well as community. And we just had the most awesome kind of soft opening. Didn't know it was going to be that this weekend with karaoke. And it was just so great to see so many folks from our community and some visitors. So yes, we are all about community. We are about freedom and freedom of expression. We value creativity as well as health and wholeness, generosity, and financial well-being. And our mission at the Center for Spiritual Living Ocala is the same as the mission of the larger organization. We are just one of over 350, I think 355, something like that, centers for spiritual living that are located all over the world, mostly in the United States and Canada. And our mission as an organization is to provide spiritual tools for personal and global transformation. Our purpose is to awaken humanity to its spiritual magnificence, meaning we believe that we know we're all spiritual beings having a human experience. And as spiritual beings, we are perfect and whole and complete just the way we are. Every one of us comes into the world that way. Now, what happens to us in our worldly experience has us maybe have a different idea about who we are and what we're capable of. But what we do here at Center for Spiritual Living is to help people get back to the essence of who they are so they can live their very best lives. Our vision is a world that works for everyone. That means it works for me, it works for you, it works for folks that we don't know and will never meet. But that is our stand and our vision. So, wow, I had another one of those tech situations right before this broadcast, and it's just wonderful to be able to breathe and just center myself and collect myself. And I'm going to do that by inviting in our practitioner, one of our practitioners, Donna Davis. Hey, Donna.
I got some stuff to help you with this. I don't know what it was today, but I was kind of like, ooh, I need to burn some stuff and just kind of help that energy move on out. You know, we just celebrated the life of Norma's brother. And so it's that familial energy that's just here for this entire weekend. So we're just going to soak it all in and just let it pass through us and go back out into the ether. So that's what we're going to do. Isn't that exciting?
That's great, Donna. You take it away.
Well, hello, everybody. Guess what? I am in like family tribal energy, man. We have been just having so much fun with family, the extended family, Norma's family, and with the tribal family that's here, and people coming to visit from all over, and just so excited to share this moment with y'all. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drop myself into that space, and I'm going to show you how I do it. I have this little bottle right here, a little spray bottle. Nothing special, right? A little bit of alcohol in there and some water and lavender, y'all. So I'm just going to spray that little bit of lavender for me here. Oh, yes. Woo, cha. And then I have my little, look at that. I got some herbs. I'm just going to burn some sage. Got some rosemary in there. It just smells amazing. Reminds me of home and the smell of cooking in the kitchen and moms and grandmothers and tribal love. And so that's what I am sitting in. And as we're talking about fighting for those who cannot fight for themselves, we're just going to drop into that space now. That is divine energy and recognition of the oneness of God. And so I invite you now to just join me as I'm just sitting here taking a nice, deep, big, deep breath in, holding on to that breath, and then breathing out. And it's a great reset practice for your mind, body, and spirit to kick you on out of fight or flight. So you're going to breathe in 4 and then breathe out 6. Get ready to do it. Here we go. Breathe in. Holding for another 4. And breathe out 6. Anchoring down, down, deep down into our physical form. Just making love to that body that is ours. Being grateful for it and the space that I take up. I recognize the vastness of the universe. From this point where I sit all the way out past my house into my neighborhood, past even further still into the very galaxy itself, all of it that is surrounding me and supporting me always. And I call this beautiful energy God. It's the easiest term for me, so that's the term I use, God. And whatever term you want to use, some people say universal mind, some say never ending love, unconditional love, goddess, even. Some have actual names, Yahweh. All of it is divine mind, expanding, enveloping all things, and forever creating. And because I am made in the image of the One, then I too am creative. And everything that is God is also me sitting in this spot. I am one with that which is the magnificent being that is everywhere and everything and always expanding. I too am a part of this. I know if it's true for me, it's true for Cindy, it's true for Norma, it's true for Rich, it's true for Yanni and Lita and Shanna Banana. It's true for everybody who's watching right now. It is true for those that we cannot see yet who are going to be watching later. It is true for you as well. We are all a part of that universal, wonderful energy that is the One. And because we're a part of it, then the thing itself that I name is also me. And it's also you, no matter how small that part is that you feel. We are just opening our mind. That's why we call it that spiritual mind treatment. We're opening our minds to recognize that all that is the One is also me. And if that is true, then unconditional love is me as well. Life is me as well. Prosperity, abundance, that is in nature. It's showing up in nature. That's also me. Love is me. And love and abundance and prosperity and life is every single one of us. So I know that everything that I desire is already mine. I am opening my mind to see it in my physical form. I am becoming aware of the presence of the divine where I am. And as such, I am grateful. I'm grateful that all my needs are met. I am grateful to be here having fun in this human body. I'm grateful for every challenge, every lesson. I am grateful for every other expression of Divine One that comes and plays with me in my experience of humanity. And as I live out this beautiful story with the ups and downs and twists and turns, I know that it is fun. And when I am done in this journey, like our brother Frank was, everyone can stand and give us a standing ovation for a job well done. The Bible says it, well done, my good and faithful servant. You are beautiful. And so I release it. I release all these thoughts. I release all of my cares. I release all of my dreams, my hopes, my aspirations, all of it back into law, because law knows how to take my thoughts and run with it and give me exactly what it is that I planned, which is love and peace and prosperity and wholeness and oneness. And it expands forevermore. I release it. And so it is. Amen. Ashe. Aho. Let's get excited for today's talk. Namaste.
Namaste. Beautiful, beautiful. Thank you for dropping us into that space
Isn't
of
it
oneness
fun?
and connection and love and joy and every beautiful thing.
Knowledge is wonderful. We love it.
Yes, thank you, my dear. So let me bring in our other cohorts for today. Bring in Norma. Norma Anderson is also one of our practitioners, the Norma Donna spoke of. And
Hello.
hello, and Reverend Kathy Beasley from the Center for Spiritual Living, Central Florida. How are you, Reverend Kathy?
I'm doing very well. How are you all?
We're good.
Wonderful. I
Great.
want to thank Donna for praying me on in.
You're so welcome. Thank you for joining me.
It was great. She prayed us all in, because I was having one of those text situations just beforehand, and it's
Like
like
2 minutes
2 minutes
before.
till.
For 2 minutes. I said, honey, we'll just stop time.
Breathe, right?
Breathe.
Yeah.
You just never know when life is going to happen, right? Throw a little something at
Never
you,
know.
just stop
Yeah.
and just breathe and collect yourself.
Hey, you know what just occurred to me? I think life is a basketball player. I play basketball with Norma, and if you're not paying attention, that ball's gonna come at you. You better be ready to catch it, pivot and pass, or shoot. But it's coming. Pay attention.
Yes. One thing before we officially start, I just want to give condolences to Norma and your family, losing your brother and having your service and all yesterday. Just my
Thank
heart
you.
is with you always.
It was a beautiful service.
It was
It
so
was well received, I think.
Yeah.
beautiful.
Well, I'm
The
so glad.
funeral director was preparing up this really churchy service, and that was not my brother, so we took over.
Well-meaning people when they, when you're trying to honor someone, well-meaning people when they don't know the family like that, we were like, we need to have somebody who's a family member who kind of got him in a huge way, was able to, and I was just so honored. I was honored to be able to take that on, and it was so much fun to share that with the family. And we went live so that others who could not make it were able to watch. And it was just beautiful, beautiful send off.
Wonderful. Awesome. So, and here we are today. Thank you for taking the time and hanging out and having this conversation that I think is so
Wait a minute.
important.
Birthday to Reverend Vicky. Rich just reminded us.
Happy
birthday, Vicky.
Is she watching? Let's see if Reverend Vicky is watching. Even if she's not, should we sing?
We can sing
Yes.
happy birthday. Yes, we can.
She may watch it
I
later.
don't know how it's going to work with all of us in different places, but you ready?
Yes, I'm ready.
Happy
Happy
birthday to you.
Happy
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Vicky.
Happy
Happy birthday to you.
It worked.
It worked. We'll just call that the remix.
It's
There
the
we go.
Yes.
Good. All right, so there we go. We squirrel sometimes.
It was a great squirrel. She's an amazing person. She was one of our ministers at the center, and just really helped polish it into what it is. So, what a beautiful, beautiful expression that she is.
Yes, we love Reverend Vicky.
Girl.
And Reverend Peggy Hostetler helped bring me up and get me ready for stepping into the pulpit. And so we wish her a very happy birthday. Yeah. All right. Awesome. So, all right. Next subject. We are here. We have been here, for this year, talking about revolutionary love as defined in the book See No Stranger by Valerie Kaur. And I love it. Every week we just, get deeper and deeper. We have talked about revolutionary love as the act of laboring on behalf of others. Right? That's what we're talking about is stepping out, for other people in love and what that means. So the first part is about loving others. That's like the first 4 sections, I think, which we're getting ready to, we're wrapping up with this month. Next one, we're going to talk about loving opponents, that next section. And then for the last part of the year, we'll be talking about loving ourselves. So in loving others, we've already discussed the idea of just wondering about people, right? What if that was my father? What if that was my sister, my brother? Whatever the case may be, just wondering. And then opening ourselves to grieving with other people, right? Feeling our own grief, feeling theirs as an act of love. And this month we're talking about fighting for others, fighting on behalf of others. And I think it's an unusual topic, if you're looking people who are really peacemakers and people who are all about spirituality to talk about fighting. But we don't mean it, just to be really clear, not fighting in a way that is violent, but using, our tools, right? Using what we got. So I want to just go over, so we've talked about in the weeks prior, right? Like what we fight for and stuff like that. So this has been an ongoing conversation. And I didn't get to ask a question last week that I wanted to throw out to you all, right? Especially as we're talking about fighting in the realm of social justice. And Donna, your prayer was so beautiful in just bringing us back to the main point of who we are and what we teach, and this idea of oneness, right? We all come from this same essence. We are all, I don't care what religion you come from, it's basically what everybody teaches, right? That we're all part of that. And yet we live in a world and in a society that puts peoples in layers, right? Kind of like a caste system, right? We know there's people at the top of the food chain. We know who's next, and and so on, and who's at the bottom, and not to say there's any objective reality to any of that, but it's kind of like that's what we came into in this world. And I don't know, maybe everybody doesn't see that, but I'm looking at, and it just happens to be this. Every week is somebody different. This time we all got all brown skinned people here. So there is that angle, right? So maybe some other people don't quite see it, but we're going to continue this exploration next week. So my question to you is, when did you notice that there was this idea about hierarchies of people? Was that part of your experience? And what helped you break out of that?
Well, I can take that question. I mean, for me, it was a very literal sense. I came and I just wanted, for me, fighting is advocating is how I look at it. Because, they teach you in nursing, you're advocating for your patient. Whether or not you are like really going head to head with a doctor that's saying, yes, it needs to be this, and the patient says, no, I really don't want to do that. The nurses, we advocate for the patient, and it's not like it's more about really standing for this person. So every time I hear the term, yes, it just starts something inside of me, and I'm like, no, it's advocating. Okay, I'm good. My system likes it a little better. But I noticed it when I first came to America, because in Jamaica, we were taught to, I experienced the mixing of the races. And yes, there was some, social classes, like rich people had the bigger houses and poor people had the little shanty. But there was this encouragement to mix the races. And then when I came here, this whole separation of all the Americans. So I was in college and I had a girl kind of berate me because I described her as a Black girl. I said, well, she's a Black girl just like me. And she was like, she's African American. I was like, I'm Jamaican. I have no clue what anybody is. They're brown, or caramel or whatever. And I realized something. There was so much pain behind it. And then I was like, what is this? And then I started researching it with African American studies and started to ask questions and things like that. And I started to realize that I felt differently. And then I had to somehow change the way I was as a person, because I never was afraid of going anywhere. Like back home, you went everywhere. There was, yes, you'd be going to ghetto, you'd be careful because, people might shoot or whatever. But it was like that really everywhere. So it wasn't like a matter of these people are better than these people. It was This is a danger zone and this is not. This is a more safe zone. So it wasn't like these people are dangerous because they're blah, 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 blah. It was never like that because we were all Jamaican. You know, Yankee versus Yachty. Either you come from Yacht or you're not. You know, those are the only two distinctions. It was a strange environment to have to remember to say African American, Native American, Asian American. I'm like, just American, you know?
In Jamaica, you're all Jamaicans.
We're all Yachty. You come from backyard? Yes. And we have all colors too. We blend, you know, because it's all about having beautiful babies. That's what we want. Pretty kids. So we take all the races and mix them all together so we have pretty kids. So, you know, and of course there's history there too, but it's not as painful like that, you know, like we're still not struggling against it like that. You know,
Yeah.
there's underlining stuff still, but we're working on it. But as a nation, it's all about everybody being Jamaican. If you're
Yeah.
born there, you're Jamaican.
You know, it's interesting, Donna, you're saying that because I'm on the spiritually motivated social engagement committee for CSL, the larger organization. And there was a statement that we put out after the Derek Chauvin, you know, after he was convicted. And we got a lot of flack about it because it came from a more, well, I won't go into all of the reasons, but we're speaking to a global audience and realizing very much that other countries are not having these same struggles in the same ways that we are in America. You know, so we're still working to get to the universal truths in all of this as we speak, so that we're uplifting everyone,
Right.
you know, and speaking to people on a global stage. So thank you for that perspective. I think that's really valuable for people to see that it is this stuff that we have here in this country, this racial kind of divide is not universal.
No.
It's something that's you know, is something that is very particular in some ways to this country. Right.
But you know what, though, for me, Cindy, I was always in communities, and even in the church that I went to, it was, black and white people. The schools were black and white people, and I never really got the whole racial thing until I was in the fifth grade and Roots came out,
Mhm.
and that caused such a division down, particularly down here in the South. It was right. I guess it's like this whole thing now with the upheavals. It's things that were undercurrent that weren't sitting on the top. But this movie came in and just roughed all that back up again, stirred the pot. And then all this black white started resurfacing in my world where it had never been before. And, which caused me as a, 6-year old, 10-year old, however old I was, I just remember some of the feelings that were going through my head because of this movie. It didn't happen to anybody that I know, but it was shown to me, and every time it came on, based on true story or real life or whatever. And I'm like, as a kid, traumatized by this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very interesting question for me because as I'm listening to your answers and I'm thinking back through my life, put on my life version of the ViewMaster, and I start clicking that wheel. And
Mhm.
um, I'm the youngest of four, but I am a child of a very fair skinned mother. And where I noticed the difference as a child, I noticed it, but I didn't have language for it. As a child, I grew up in the 70s before we had shopping malls. So if you had to go get something, you had to go to town to get something. And our neighborhood, everything about our lives were people who were shades of brown. And when you go to town, it was very different because the only non-people of color I had ever seen were either teachers or people at a store. And I didn't have a lot of interaction, and my interaction was the same with them as it was with the elders in my family. Yes, ma'am, no, sir, type of thing. But I didn't start to stir the pot of language until I went to seminary, because until then it never really mattered to me, just by virtue of my sphere of influence. But when I got to seminary and I started looking around the room and we start to do some of this racial work, And Norman, when you talk about how the pot gets stirred and there is this energy that upheaves it, being in a room of people who are very different from me, and having people come over and apologize, and I'm like, I'm not the panacea of all people of color, so saying sorry to me does not make it okay historically. And that was the first time I ever said something out loud. And I think being conscious of it, um, that being conscious of anything, that having that level of awareness within yourself, that changes you. And it gave me language. It gave me an opportunity to understand what it means when we say we other a person, and it gave me recognition of the other when the other is not me. um, and it really pushed me to look for the other. And I think in doing that, it's been some years now, but it that really stayed with me. So it doesn't really matter where I am or what I'm doing. I listen for the other, I look for the other, and I try to make room wherever I am for the other, because I know that it's the line, Donna, when you were praying, you said that all that is me, all that is the one is also me. So all that is the other is also me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm. So I guess I'll share a little bit of mine, because I grew up Latina, that my parents were born in Puerto Rico and I was raised in New York. And like you all, there it was just shades of brown, and when I was first growing up, at 9 years old, we moved to the suburbs. And then there was a lot of people that didn't look as much like me. And I never felt like I fit in anywhere. I didn't fit in my own family. I didn't fit in my neighborhood. I didn't fit in my classes. Like I didn't fit anywhere. I was too brown for some places. I was too light for others. And like, just didn't fit in. Too smart, too this, too that. Um, so I always felt like I was outside of it. But the worst of the probably racial harm, I think, that happened for me was not from outside. It was from within my family. It was from the people that were joking, and it was supposed to be fun to put down, the uh, people with dark skin, or like I wasn't good enough because my skin was too dark and my hair was too curly and nobody was ever going to love me, kind of stuff. So I grew up with all of that, feeling very much less than, when people are putting that in your face, or saying that when at such a young age, it's really hard to come out of that. But the time that it really like crystallized for me, this idea of that there were hierarchies of people, you know, um, I was watching, I'd heard of it before, but I'd never seen it. It was this video of little girls playing with dolls. And it was a test. It was like a sociological thing. They were looking at these kids playing with these dolls, and asking little white girls and little black girls, here's a white doll, here's a black doll, which one's good, which one's bad. And the kids would look at the black doll and say the black doll was bad, or there was something wrong with the black doll because she was black. And I think I was in my 30s. I might have been even over 40 when it just hit me like, oh my God, what we do that would cause a small child, what kind of society is this? What are we doing to our kids that would have a kid that's 3, 4, or 5 years old looking at a doll and saying this one's bad because she has dark skin? Like, it's just crazy. And but then, like you see it, this is this society, the culture that we have come into. None of us created it. Right. It's like, I don't know if you all have read Cast. I know you did, Don, and Norma read Cast. I don't know if Reverend Kathy read Cast.
Yes.
Right.
Reluctantly, but I read.
Yeah, the idea that it's like you buy a house that needs renovation, right? You didn't cause the mess, you didn't cause the damage, but look, guess what? You're living in it. So you can blame the people that lived here before, and that's not going to fix anything. right? But we have to deal with what's, what's in front of us,
Yeah.
right?
That's why when if somebody comes to me and says, "Oh, I'm so sorry," I'm like, "Do better. You learn from that,
Mm.
the mistake of your ancestors, and just do better. That's it.
Right,
Have to do nothing. Just be yourself and be your wonderful, magnificent self, and just be loving to everybody. That's all. That's your sorry right there.
right.
You know?
Exactly.
Yeah. When you know better, you do better.
So how did you break out of that paradigm? Do you remember? I mean, like, was there a moment like, wow, this is some BS right here that I have been believing, or or does it ever still come up? And I don't mean necessarily just race, right? I'm talking about any of the ways that we make people higher or less than. And I'll fess up, sometimes when I see somebody and they got, initials next to their name, it's like that automatically comes with, respect, some level of deference. I found myself doing that and realized that, wow, like I gave this person a whole lot more slack or whatever than they deserve because they had some initials next to their name. You know what I mean?
And even now that you have initials next to your name, do you feel any different?
Yeah, yeah. So like flattening it out, realizing that we really are all one, and there are not these hierarchies. Somebody's
And
not better because they have money or because they have this job or they have whatever.
and if you ask those people, they'll probably be like, "Please treat me like a regular person." It's very now and
Mhm.
again you'll find somebody that's like really narcissistic and whatever, and that's just a personality thing that can be anywhere, you know, and it could be anybody of any caste. But I feel that if having that initial before your name, like Rev Donna Davis RN, it's like, yes, it looks great, but I'm not any different. I don't want to be
Mhm.
any different. It just means that I know a little bit more on a subject than you do. That's really all
Mhm.
it is. And so now I used to do that same thing, Cindy. I used to think that they had the initials so that, the minor deity, the MD behind the name just suddenly, right? I think
Mary
it,
Morrissey.
Mary Morrissey said that minor deity. And so we do that to these people, and they can't hold there always. You're asking them to be something more than human. And they can hang out up there for a short time,
Just
but when
praying.
they're regular folk again that just want to be seen and heard and to experience and to love and to have family, and that's what they want, just like me.
And a lot of
I think.
times, I think a lot of times that's just in our heads anyways. These people don't see themselves any different than, you or me or their significant others. But it's, once I think the way I got past that is the act as if, and then I started finding myself in the circle of these people, and they're just as goofy and funny and normal as the next person. And as you start seeing them as, the same as you, putting on one clothes one leg at a time, it helps to minimize and break that down slowly. Because when someone approached Don and I to be co-founders of this new business, and this guy's a doctor, PhD, all this other stuff, and he came to us as the people of knowledge in this area, and we're like, but it,
Who? Me?
it's a right.
Yeah. It's fun because you get a chance to rehumanize everyone. And that's
Mhm.
the thing. It's like you take away their humanity and you just put them on whatever pedestal or in whatever box you want to put them in, but we're still human beings.
Still works both ways, right?
Yes,
Mhm.
If we're looking up at somebody or we're looking down,
Mhm.
it's the same
right?
thing. And
It's
so
the same thing.
I think it's just harder with the color of the skin and the physical attributes because you're just so used to wondering about the fear, like that fear from the ancestral fear just kicks in and says, well, these people have done blah 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 in the past, so they must all be blah blah blah. And that's the lens that we're looking at them through. Kind of like as a nurse, all doctors are jerks to nurses. That's the story that has been told in the past. That's not the case anymore.
Or
There's
was it ever?
it was,
Mhm.
well, I mean, there was a time when more of that would happen. Those occurrences will happen, but there were still lovely, wonderful people that were doctors that were being amazing to their nurses, and nobody spoke of those people. And now we're saying, wait a minute, that's the exception. That's not the rule. The rule is that doctors care. They care about their patients, and so do the nurses. And as long as you speak to each other about the patient, you have common ground. And now it no longer becomes, I'm an MD and you're just a nurse. It becomes, how can we advocate for this patient together so that this patient can live?
Yeah.
It works so beautifully in like trauma centers. When y'all see the surgeon shows up, the doctor, the nurse, the students, everybody in there when you call a code, and it's just bam, 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 bam. And nobody stops and says, oh, that nurse is Black. You know, we're running a code. We can't have that nurse there. It's the life of that patient in that moment. In that moment, when time stands still and we're fighting for that life, it doesn't matter. Extra hands, come pump on this checks, extra hands. That's what it becomes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What's your experience, Kathy?
Cindy, when you asked the question, I think because I love music so much, there's always a song playing in my head. And as you asked the question, I heard Diana Ross, "I'm Coming Out," and I think for what happened for me is when I garnered language for who I am as a human being, um, it changed the way that I live. And so when I made in my own mind and life being an African American woman, same gender loving, when that became okay to me and I didn't have to hide aspects of myself, um, what I started to realize is that as I move through the lives, those intersections of points of where our lives meet, that for some people, they may not have ever met a me. And so I may be the isness and the allness of everything in that moment. And how do I show up as my whole self all the time, as much of the time as I possibly can, knowing that there are some people who have never met aspects of who I am. I was stationed in Japan for a number of years in the Navy. And my favorite thing to do was to go different places. I wanted to see it. I'm like, okay, this is one time in my life, first time in my life I've ever been out of the country. And I want to see everything that Japan has to offer. And I was walking down the street in one of these small villages, and a mother and her child walked out of a store. And I knew in that moment that that child had never seen a brown skinned person because the freak out factor for him was high. And I had never seen a person I'd never seen a person see a me for the first time. So freak out factor was high for me as well. And he ran behind his mother and he just kind of peeked around. And I have this thing, I don't know where it comes from, just instinct with children. I will immediately go to my knees so I can be in the same space that they are. And his mother apologized. She said, "I am so sorry. He has never seen a person of color." And I said, is it okay if I hold my hand out so that he can touch my hand to realize that there is nothing wrong? It's not going to wipe off or anything like that. And I held my hand out for him. He came over. He held my hand. He looked at it like, okay, what's happening? And I did the same thing with him. And it's like when we are okay in who we are, the world has a shot at being okay with who we are. But it's like we meet each other where we are. And so that was really key for me in my life of understanding that other isn't bad. I am who I am. And if I require a level of safe passage, if you will, how do I grant that same safe passage for other people?
Ah, that's so beautiful. Yeah. So if I could reiterate what I'm hearing here, it really is about loving, accepting, being okay with yourself, that then allows us to be that person for others. And the curiosity, like how beautiful. There was nothing wrong with that little guy. He just had never experienced, right?
Yeah. The
Didn't know
cool thing
if it was good or bad.
I was like, hey, so that shapes it for him across time.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Wow, I'm looking at the wow, Reverend Kathy, that was my children's father's experience as well. That was Lita and
Hmm.
Lisa Riley. Yes, meeting people where we're at. So we have to wrap up here very soon. It seems like it's never enough time, right? It's just never enough time to
Right.
get out everything we want to talk about. Um, as you go out there, and we all fight for people in different ways, right? So I'm going to talk more about the tools. Like for me, my tool, my weapon, so to speak, what I go out there with is my voice, is my speaking, is my ability to connect with people, right? So I can tell the stories of the guys at prison and make them human for other people who might never meet somebody behind bars, right? So that's my, that's what I use. Um, and then, so our tool, and also how do we shield ourselves? How do we take care of ourselves? And so that's another whole big conversation. But if you could go like quick snapshot, what is your tool and what is your protection in this fight for other people?
So my tool is that I create safe space in my home and everywhere I go. So when I meet someone, even if I'm out and about, I create like a little safe bubble and I just recognize them as God expressing and I speak to them heart to heart. And then I create that space in my home and in our business. And my shield is my boundary to that safe space. Because if I feel that somebody is not in an emotional area of their life where they can share that space with me, then I create a little bit of a boundary and I, allow them to come to me when they're ready. And so I'll say, okay, this is how much I can allow in my home. And that's a boundary for everyone, including myself, because I had to start putting myself first, you know,
Mm.
saying I can't give from an empty well. So how do I replenish myself? Oh yes, in my own safe space that I created. Oh, and you're welcome to join me, but if you're not emotionally ready to honor my space, then come when you're ready. But I'm not going to allow you to come in and disrupt it for others.
Nice. You're so good at that too. That's a talk for another Sunday.
Yeah, for me, it's the not tolerating the foolishness. That's what I call it. Everybody knows me as such. They come at me with stupidity. I shut it down. I ain't got time for it. And my shield would be the look on my face.
Yeah, it says it is.
That is priceless. I think the same is for me, Norma. I just never knew it until now. But I think that when I move through the world, I think my tool is my voice, both written and spoken. And because I I decided a few years ago I was going to be a public theologian. Had no clue what that meant. I just like the way it rolls off your tongue. I'm a public theologian. Uh, and what I started to recognize is that that is the opportunity to take the isness and allness of me and all that I understand about. I use the word God and spirit, and to put that in ways that are just really matter of fact, and to place them wherever they are and allow people to have that buffet experience. Take from it what you will. And my protection is the understanding that whatever it is I do in the spirit of love, grace, and peace. Even when I give you the side eye, I still love you, and I still have a feeling of grace and peace. But I think those those are my.
Well, sometimes the love has got to be for yourself first,
Yeah.
because we move through it. We practice moving the energy through, right? The anger, the whatever, the aggravation, like all that stuff. Because we're human
Mhm.
beings, it has to pass through your system, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes it means, I have to put myself in this bubble right here for now while I calm down, and then I can show up for you in love again.
Process through the feelings.
Mhm.
Yeah, what was that? The buffet experience. Yes, people are looking at our comments here. Well, I thank you, ladies, for this very rich and wonderful conversation. Well, I think we're gonna have to rework this, make it more than a half hour or something. But there's
Because
always
I
so
feel like
much.
it's like 3:05, and I'm like, what? We're almost done.
I know. How could it be over already? So,
Yeah.
anyway, thank you again. It's so wonderful to have you with us this month, Reverend Kathy. It's thoroughly enjoyed it. And you all don't have a reopen date yet, do you?
Mm-mm.
Don't know what that looks like yet.
Don't know what that looks like.
All right. And when do you all broadcast?
We broadcast every Sunday morning. We start at 9:30 with meditation, where we gather together, ground the day, and then we start at 10 o'clock to celebrate the lives we live. And we are live on Zoom. All of the information is on our website, cslorlando.org. And I invite you all to join us. We're live on Facebook, so if you're feeling a little shy about it, you can jump in on Facebook, and I will greet you right there. And we're having a good time, just really coming to understand the thing itself as ourselves.
Yeah, it's beautiful. This has been so fun.
Yes.
Very, very
Yes,
fun. And
indeed.
ladies, thank you, Donna and Norma, for especially this past weekend. We're feeling the energy here, Reverend Kathy. We had a karaoke night on Friday, and it was almost a full house, and we didn't
What?
even hardly put anything out there.
Y'all didn't tell me.
It
It's not
was.
a party till I show up.
We'll have another one.
Yes.
I'm telling you.
We'll have another one. You're welcome to join us anytime.
Every other Friday, Reverend Kathy. Every other Friday.
Is it every other, or is it second and fourth or something like that? It's every other?
It's on
I'm
our.
let-
It's on our.
I think it's second and fourth.
They're up there as events on the Facebook.
On your Facebook page.
Yeah.
I'm gonna check that out. I can't have y'all having fun without me.
All right.
And we're getting ourselves together to be able to reopen. So that's really fun.
I love that.
Yes. And so the link for the Zoom is up, and it sounds like people really enjoyed the conversation today. And so
Shannon said it's first and third steps Fridays.
first and third. All right. And
Thank
it's
you, Shannon.
all on Zoom. All right. Terrific.
So take us on Zoom, y'all. For real.
Yeah, check us out on
Our
Zoom.
faces.
All right. Thank you, ladies. I'm going to close this out, and then we'll go and meet up again in Zoom.
All right.
Sure. Happy Sunday.
Happy Sunday, everybody.
Sunday.
All right. Oh my gosh, that was so much fun. And we only got to two of the questions. So we're going to go through some more of those questions next week for those of you who really want to know what is it that you need, the tools, the implements, the protection, all of that stuff for doing this fight on behalf of other people, right? That choice that we make to fight for others. As an act of revolutionary love. And of course, it then has to come from love, comes from loving ourselves first. Well, actually, it doesn't even have to be loving yourself first, just from being love, the desire to be love, to express it and to live from that place. So we will, let me see what I've got here for us. It is time for us to do our blessing, our sharing of our gifts. And we made it really easy for people to help support the Center for Spiritual Living. There's a little ticker tape that will be going across. There we go. And it's what you do is if you're on a smartphone, you can call that number or text that number rather, and then put in the amount of money that you want to give to the center once you have it set up, of course, with your bank, and it goes right from your account to ours. Or you can go to cslocala.org/donate, and you can give that way. Let's see. And while you're on our website, if you happen to check it out, do sign up for our newsletter so you can find out when all these different fun events are happening. We will be reopening soon in person. Not sure, 100% sure yet about the date or the actual location, because it is very likely that we will be doing our Sundays somewhere else, bigger and exciting. So we will keep you informed about that. But in the meantime, I want to thank everybody who has been giving to the Center for Spiritual Living, supporting us financially, helping us with your time and your elbow grease, your hard work. People have converged on the center and are cleaning things and repairing, and it's just been a beautiful thing. And of course, all those things cost money. So if you could donate to the center, we greatly appreciate it. And here is our affirmation. It is the nature of life to give of itself. As it is the tree's nature to bear fruit and the flower's nature to bloom, it is my nature to share the gifts of my time, talent, and treasure. I participate in the divine flow of life, giving generously and receiving abundantly. I am blessed and I am a blessing. I am so very grateful. And so it is. And I hope what you see in that statement is that circle, that whatever it is that we want to see more of in our lives, whatever we want to have manifest, we start the process by giving. And as we give, we receive. And so just keep that in your minds and your hearts. And whether you're giving to the Center for Spiritual Living or someplace else, just make sure that you're giving someplace. Let's see what else we've got here. Switch this out and go to our closing prayer. Yes, and this comes from James Dillett Freeman, who was a unity minister, our cousin, sister, whatever, related organization. And it is this: the light of God surrounds us. The love of God enfolds us. The power of God protects us. And the presence of God watches over us. Wherever we are, God is, and all is well. I invite you to make that your prayer, whether you use the word God or universe or life, whatever that feels right for you, but that you know that wherever you are, that life is supporting you and taking care of you and helping you move through those bumps and challenges of life. And I look forward to seeing you on Zoom, and I look forward to seeing some of you in person when the center opens. And I just pray and affirm that you have a fabulous week. Love and blessings. Take care.